Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are in the world. I'm glad you're here at Sheetmetal TV on YouTube and on the audio, Sheetmetal Unleashed. I've got a great guest. I've been watching him on Instagram and on LinkedIn. I've seen Tyler over there does their media, and he does some pretty awesome photography and that. So I'm actually going to be speaking with the owner of Dark Threat Fab. So let me bring Andrew in here and make some introductions. Hey, Andrew, how are you today?
Doing well.
Good, good. Hey, I appreciate your time. I know you guys are probably busy. From what I see on YouTube, you got a lot going on. You got some awesome machinery and equipment. So I also wanted to talk to you guys because I've seen Tyler has a lot of has taken a lot of pictures over there, and you guys do a good marketing and getting the message out there on what you guys do, and yeah, so and I wanted to uh, interview you or talk to you about how you started in fabrication. I've been looking over your website, and from the looks of it, looks like it's a big family business from what I see with all the teammates there.
That's right.
So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. So yeah, Tyler does a fantastic job. He's actually a friend of mine from a long time ago, way before we started this business. And at church he was already involved in like kind of their videography and pictures and things like that. So I knew he had a knack for it, and he's just a really smart guy that puts in a lot of work. And so we kind of teamed up with him. We didn't know where to put our marketing dollars. We didn't know to put them in radio or any kind of ads. So we just thought, well, let's just get a dedicated person to help us with social media and the actual content itself. And so he's done a great job with that.
nice, nice. So, what inspired you to start in fabrication and get into manufacturing? How did Dark Threat come around?
So my family, my father's family, so him and his two brothers and his father, they built custom homes with their family for over 110 years in this area.
Mm,
And they were always, especially in my lifetime, building mostly second homes. Each house would take 2 to 3 plus years to complete. They were building anything and everything in that house and doing almost all the work themselves, except for some subcontract work. With that, there was a lot of metal work that happened too. And my dad, he was always building his own trailers and implements for our farm and for other family members and things like that. And so, at a young age, he was showing me how to stick weld and grind and how to build things correctly in general. They're very very particular family in the way that they build. And so I guess that's where the passion started. And then, I had a love for power sports, anything with wheels on it that could go fast. So try not to kill myself, but and that kind of spurred the business itself to take on. With my interest in building and designing things, I went to school for mechanical engineering. I got my degree there, and then went into the side of that that's mostly like product design, research and development, things like that. So a lot of experience in SolidWorks and CATIA and some other 3D parametric modeling CAD programs. Uh,
mm.
and so I had all the tools. Now I just had these expensive hobbies that I wanted to try to go after. And the actual beginning to the business, my favorite saying is, how do you talk your wife into letting you put 43-inch tall dump truck tires on your truck? Well, you come up with a way to make it tax deductible. So so it kind of started as a hobby. We started making truck accessories, and I actually had a utility patent for some ATV ramps that I finished when I was in college. And
Nice.
in the course of, I set a stretch goal to go to SEMA in 2014. In the course of that, I wanted to take other products, and it was just the the three of us, myself, my father, and my wife. And so it was such a task that we really had to focus on the first two products, and those sold themselves through social media and kind of became too much for us to handle because we were so small.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why we started buying more and more equipment and things that I was used to having access to my previous professional life. Uh, and so at that point, that's where I apologize, ignore that call there. Um, at that point, that's where we had a lot of investment in equipment. And so we had companies actually start approaching us about job shop type work, contract manufacturing. And so about 2 or 3 years ago, we actually took a sabbatical from truck accessories because it was just so custom and low volume. It didn't really fit where we needed to go for the
Yeah.
growth we were looking for at the moment. We might come back to it someday. I think we will. I still get tons of demand and requests. Why aren't you doing this anymore? But yeah, for right now, we're just steadily growing in the manufacturing space. We have some of our own products. We do a lot of engineering. To fabrication. We help a lot of customers reduce costs in their current designs. But yeah, we like to be in that medium to high volume production if we can.
Yeah. 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 Man, that's pretty impressive. And now, have you got children that are starting to come into the business as well
Yeah,
now?
so my son, he's 12. He'll be 13 next month, and he's
Okay.
been working with us full time in the summers for probably 3 years now, at least. He's certified welder, MIG welder. He's actually really good.
Oh man.
I have to tell him to kind of hold back and critiquing, some of the other new guys because he's so young. I'd say, hey, they might not receive this, coming from a kid, but he's really talented and seems excited about everything we're doing here.
Oh, that's good. So soon we'll probably see him on YouTube with his own channel doing some TIG welding stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, he can run our robots. He can run our flat lasers. He's just learning this week how to run our tube laser. So he's getting opportunities that not many other kids that age get.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, man. I started out as a welder myself, but no, and I've been teaching my son how to weld. So I showed him, put him on a laser welder to try one out,
Yeah,
and he's like, "Man, this is good." And then I put him on a TIG welder to weld some aluminum, and he's like, "Oh, this is a whole lot different."
exactly. Yeah, yeah, and that's the hardest thing I think in teaching anybody to weld is that it's like teaching anybody to do anything, welding or grinding. What you see me doing, there's actually a lot more going on,
Yep.
and then getting them to see what went wrong and what they might be able to change to improve that. So it's a neat learning experience.
No, no. So what would have been your biggest challenge when you first started?
Oh, it's the same challenge every day. Is just having enough money, to do what you dream, to follow that. It's the same challenge every day. It's from when you start, um, trying to convince people to take a risk on you, and then even when you're going and things don't go right, trying to keep going. So it's that's always a challenge is getting paid on time and trying to pay all your bills on time. That's that. If we were rich, we'd just be having fun every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, I know. Um, that that's good. Now, I've seen quite a bit of your machinery from what I've seen on YouTube and on your website. And if anybody has any questions or want to reach out to Andrew and them, I'll have all the links in the YouTube video below, and also in the audio podcast if you listen to it on the audio platforms.
Mhm.
Um, but what machines or tools are the backbone of your shop right now?
Yeah, our core competency started really when we went to doing higher volume manufacturing. It was flat laser cutting and bending. That was the first thing. We really need to invest in equipment to be able to do it with precision and repeatability. And so, flat lasers are a huge part of it. But then, we've recently diversified. Now we've got machining, an entire machining department. and we also have a tube laser department, and then powder coating. Now, the very first thing we actually started with, our first big investment outside of our plasma table that we had, was powder coating. We had a lot of trouble. We were having to drive, hours one way. We tried 7 or 8 different powder coaters, and a lot of those, they've gotten better and had improvements since then. But we had issues with quoting, um,
Yep.
delivery, logistics, quality, you name it. It wasn't sustainable. So we had to bring that in house. And we definitely, that's when we started kind of dreaming big, and we got a really big batch oven for our area, and it's grown with us really well. We're still looking at doing some modifications, but we can handle a lot of volume.
Yep. And so with the powder coating for other people, since you've got it dialed in.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've seen yeah, with powder coating, I see a lot of people send it out, but it could be weeks before you get something, and you already got a tight deadline to get something out as well.
Well, and there's a lot more to it than what, even ourselves, when we were outsourcing it, you make a lot of assumptions about powder coating. You think it's this magic coating that just covers all your sins. In reality, it just makes them all stand out. So you really need to put a lot more effort into your surface preparation. Your If you are grinding or polishing surfaces, it better be immaculate, or it's all going to show through that powder coat. Um,
Mm,
Pre-treatment is very important. Um, if you can put a like a protective coating, like a zinc layer underneath, if stuff's going outside, to help it hold up longer outside. There's a whole lot to it.
yeah. So if you're laser cutting now, and that, are you cutting with nitrogen, so you don't have to do a lot of cleaning on the edges for when you're powder coating?
Yes, yeah. So right now we've got bulk nitrogen and bulk
Hmm.
oxygen, also liquid, cryogenic tanks. But we we make that decision on our lower wattage flat laser, and on our tube laser. They're both 4,000 watts. You're kind of limited. You hit that wall of thickness where you have to switch over and cut with oxygen.
Yep.
And so if there is a mill scale that's going to be an issue, you have to touch it before you end up powder coating. But yes, we cut with a lot of nitrogen. And then our 10,000 watt flat laser, we've also got the option to cut with high pressure air, and you kind of get a little bit of a blend, and it holds up pretty good under powder also.
Mm. Yep. Yep. Now, you touched up on this before about you're more of a job shop focused than product based, but you may get back into creating your own products and getting back into that as well. So, are you doing long runs when you're doing job shop work, or a bit of both? Some
It's
small
still
ones.
pretty high mix.
Okay.
We've got some, quantities are typically from 10 pieces to, it could be 1,000 pieces,
Mm.
somewhere in that
Hmm.
range typically. We've got some work that we can build ahead on, that we get forecasting on, but a lot of times it's just PO based, and depending on where the customer's putting POs out at. So we're pretty high mix. Like, we'll set up and we might cut, bend, and then weld up, 600-700 parts, and then the welders will swap over to another part number. So we're lots of setups throughout the day.
Yep. Yep. Now, and you guys are centrally located in Arkansas.
We are
And
we're about an hour and 15 minutes north of Little Rock.
okay, okay. So that for I know for shipping purposes, that's got to be great being central there. I know.
Yeah, we're in a really small town. They actually lowered our population below 7,000 people in the last census, which kind of surprised me. There's a lot of people in our county, but the actual town of Heber Springs is fairly small.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of really big industry here too. We've got some, I wouldn't call them direct competitors, but similar companies to us that are much larger. So there's a great workforce, and it's just a beautiful place to live if you're
Yeah.
in the outdoors, for sure.
Yep. No, that's good. How do you guys handle quoting and project management?
So quoting, we recently, towards the end of last year, we picked up the platform, paperless parts.
Okay.
I'm sure you're familiar with that, and so that's working really well. There's a lot of setup that goes into that, especially when you tie it into your ERP system. When
Mm,
you get pushed out of that, but we're still working through, a few little bugs, which you'll probably always be doing that. But it does help tremendously. It speeds things up.
yeah, I've heard paperless parts is pretty good. Looks good from
Yeah.
what I've seen as well. No, that's good. What sort of CAD CAM or nesting software do you guys use?
It's quite a bit. Our main package that we maintain here is SolidWorks. We've got several seats of that, but we also have a couple seats of Fusion, and
Hmm.
we use those mainly for programming CNCs right now at the moment. But
Yep.
I'm considering potentially switching to that from SolidWorks, because a lot of what we're doing, it would handle just fine,
Yep.
especially with the improvements they've made to it, for cost reasons mainly, because SolidWorks is so expensive to maintain for a small business.
Yep.
But they are the market leaders, in my opinion. That one of the easiest things to run, and I've got the most experience on it. But as far as like CAD CAM packages, we've got the Mata suite of software packages where we're creating flat patterns, bin programs for the press breaks offline. And then we've also got another program called Incel that we use to create nests and things for our Mitsubishi laser.
Mm,
And then we've got an older Amada program that we're not maintaining anymore, but it actually lives in SolidWorks. It's called Sheetworks. It's really powerful.
yeah.
But even though it's older, it is fantastic. I kind of wish most things were that powerful.
Yeah, I remember using that years ago. Um, but yeah, that is, especially when it comes to weldments as well.
Hmm.
That was pretty good. Um, have you integrated any automation, robotics into your facility?
So the first automation that we brought in was I think they call it a continuous loader onto our Armada flatbed laser. So it's just
Okay.
the first stage of automation, and really, in my opinion, with their system. And I'm not trying to dog it. It's the only thing that makes sense if you're going to cut material thicker than 12 gauge, because they don't have a solution to take the slugs off the slats between sheets.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, we were only able to run, if we were running sheets, full skids a quarter, we could only run 2 sheets. And then we had to come up there in the middle of the night, break the slugs off the slats, 2 more sheets. So for that was our first bit of automation, and it was well worth it. I mean, to be honest, I don't know how anybody spends the money and invests in a flat laser and doesn't have some type of automatic loading and unloading, because you're just choking your throughput on that machine. There's just no operators that can keep up with it. When we first started seeing volume, um, at one point we were running 24/7, 2 operators, and we had the machine set to pull on the operators.
Yeah.
And you just couldn't keep up. There was no way.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen some people opt out of automation, and especially on some bigger wattage lasers. I'm like, "Man, if you're doing a bigger wattage laser, you would not be able to keep up if you're doing light gauge material."
You're right.
Um,
It's done and just sitting there waiting to shuttle tables, especially like you said, if there's not many pierces or difficult geometry. The only place I think somebody might be okay to steer away from automation is when you're going to what I'm calling these ultra high wattage lasers now. When you're going 30,000 plus watts, I think I saw a 60 now that's available. At
yeah,
that point, the only reason you bought that and invested that expensive piece is because I guess you intend on cutting very thick plate.
yep,
And to my knowledge, they don't have suction cups that can handle the weight, to transfer those anyways. And really, I'd be worried about cutting the shuttle tables in half, um, so fast that you're
yeah,
not able to keep an automation system running. That's your biggest challenge with sheet loading automation from our perspective is really paying attention to your programs and what you're doing to make sure that the machine doesn't kill itself, because you put a lot of extra wear on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I'd be interested to see a 60 kilowatt and see underneath that thing after it's been cutting
You know,
because
they're making the slats a lot taller to try to compensate for that. I mean, 2 and 3 times taller slats. But it's just the physics of it. I mean, if you're trying to cut something 3 or 4 inches thick, and you're moving super slow, the energy from the bottom of that beam is going somewhere, and it's gonna tear things apart.
mm,
And
yeah.
if not, if and hopefully your slug trays are made out of 2 inch stuff too to handle the heat and not blow your concrete floor up.
Yeah, I know. I know. That yeah, I'd man, be interesting to see. I
It
could
would
see having a higher wattage if you're doing 45-degree cuts in it so you can get all the
exactly,
way through at an angle, but
right.
not for
Yeah, you'd
straight.
have to. It'd be interesting for me to even think about quoting those jobs, because yeah, it's great. You got this capability that nobody else may have, but you really would have to go through a few of them and figure out, okay, after 2 of these sheets, I've got to replace slats in this section of the bed. I'm thinking there's going to be a lot more consumed, underneath all that activity. But
Yeah, yeah. So sticking with lasers at the moment, what are your thoughts on fiber versus CO2?
I came in. We at the point we bought our first laser, it was fiber. So I, all I know is kind of stories and things I've heard, from people having to do rebuilds on, the telescopic glass assemblies and aligned mirrors and things like that. I will have to say that, I think fiber is the way to go, simply for the fact that they're making tons of improvements with beam shaping and things.
Yep.
Our fiber, the first fiber we bought, the Mata, we still have to do a lens change,
Yep.
because it's an LCG. It was right before they put the INSYS out,
Yep.
and so it's probably got the last of the handicaps of a fiber versus a CO2, other than not being able to cut non-metals and things like that. But yeah, I'm all about a fiber. The power that you've got to get to the machine is a lot lower, so it consumes a lot less electricity, and the maintenance. We've had great luck maintenance-wise out of these machines and the fiber engines themselves. So from I've just kind of heard some, I wouldn't call them horror stories, but just pains from CO2. Um, I I have kind of heard and imagined some benefits of it, but I think that everyone's pretty much compensating for that and still going away from CO2.
Yeah, yeah, CO2 was good and still good. It has its
Yeah,
places, but um, I would surely say if it's your first time getting into a laser, I'd probably go with a laser over a CO2
absolutely.
because a lot less work and a lot less maintenance on.
Right. Yeah. If we, being green and not knowing anything about it, if we were fighting issues about the cut quality from one corner to the other corner of the sheet because of a mirror alignment or something, that's just added complexity that we didn't have the bandwidth to take on. So I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I want to tackle your team and training here. How do you find and train skilled labor?
That's a great question. We That's a question a lot of new customers and vendors always ask me. How is it finding help and hiring help? In this area, we've got a great pool of
Hmm.
workers, and so I seem to have a lot of applicants. Really just, I've learned a long time ago in my engineering career. I used to have to hire co-op students, two a semester that would work for me in previous occupations, and I figured out real quick that what they were learning and what kind of grades they made. That's important to tell me a little bit about them. But the question I was more concerned in is, what are their hobbies? Where's their heart at?
Yeah,
And that was so much more important. Even if all they got to do, they weren't, blessed like my son, being able to grow up in this environment, have so many skills from a young age. They might have only been able to work at a gas station, but do they like RC cars? Do they play with Legos? Just silly things like that. Kind of gauge, their interest. Because I figured out if somebody's very interested in something, they're going to drive themselves, and that's definitely what you want in an employee.
Yeah, yeah. Like my youngest son, he's 18 now, so he's not really young anymore. Well, but he likes to pull things apart and see how it works and put it back together, or so
Right.
yeah, that definitely is a good trait.
As
Well,
far as
yeah,
training, you're saying, it's a lot of on the job. We obviously, Tyler helped us to document processes and things like that. But also, we use our experience here, and we'll show people. Even myself, I can go out and help training in a welding situation or programming a robot, one of our welding robots,
yeah.
things like that. So we try to cross train as much as we can, so we've got people that are backed up to be able to do something.
Yeah, that's good. I like the idea of cross training because you can. When I grew up in New Zealand, I did my time in a shop. You were all over the shop, so I could be in the machine shop one day, or I could be out on a job site welding, or I could be fitting something up in the back of the shop. Um, yeah, I think being able to run every part of the shop is pretty good and
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, and you mentioned, how do you pick somebody, and I'm always watching, and if you pay attention anywhere you've ever worked, everyone's watching to some degree. How you hold yourself, and like my one thing I look for that I figure out and I try to do myself is, even just walking across the shop from one end to the other. If you walk with a purpose, and you can tell if somebody, walking just to kill time. They're not
Mm,
concerned about what they're doing. And you can tell if somebody's walking to get somewhere to get something done.
yeah,
That's kind of silly, but it really starts that simple. And it's the same with like sweeping the floor. If you can sweep the floor well with excellence, then you're probably ready to be trusted with something more and to do it with excellence too.
yeah, yeah, and that's been my biggest pet peeve. Is sometimes I get a little impatient with people because if I'm training you on something, and this has happened in a shop years ago, and you come back and you ask me 3 or 4 times, I say, "Why haven't you written it down?"
Right.
And then they turn around and say, "Well, you didn't ask me to write it down." I'm like,
Right.
"Dude, I shouldn't have to."
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I get it. There's just different personalities out there, and you're going to have some people that just want to do what they're told, and they want to be told what to do. Then there's those of us who can get some sense of achievement out of figuring out how to do it and do it right and better.
Mm,
And
mhm.
yeah, working around those different personalities, that's a challenge in itself.
Oh, yeah. How do you maintain a strong shop culture?
Yeah, when we figure that out, I'll let you know. No, I do my best. I make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I know I'm going to make more. My goal and what I want to do is like the golden rule. Treat others like I want to be treated,
Mhm,
and I really try to do that. And for being an owner, that becomes more difficult sometimes because everything is personal. The business is you, and so to try to separate yourself from that and the situations, but really just try to care about people and uh, and try to maintain an environment where the speech is healthy, the conduct is healthy,
mhm.
and you've got healthy ways to discipline and guide and things like that. And it is difficult. I'll admit. I mean, I'm learning something new every day, but maintaining a good culture. That's probably the reason why I started this business and left the corporate world, is because I wasn't, super happy with some of the culture in a corporate world.
Mm,
So just trying to make people as happy as you can, and understand that they have things going on at home. And a lot of times, if somebody's struggling, it might be because of something that's out of everybody's control, and just try to have compassion and empathy, and try to work through things.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, that's good. Um, I wanted to. I got got a couple of questions on business growth and strategy. Excuse me. What was the moment you knew the shop was going to make it?
um, I don't know if I could pick out a real point. Obviously when I quit my day job, I took a really really large risk, and we definitely struggled in the beginning. Um, I don't think there was a lottery ticket. There was
Yeah,
never there wasn't a point in time where we thought, oh man, this is it, we've made it. From the outside looking in, people, they look at our building, especially when we added on, and added new equipment, and the outside perception, is their reality. They think, oh gosh, these guys are doing amazing. And in reality, even to this day, we're taking risks, trying to grow, and make investments in equipment and employees, and everything, so that we can have a really bright future. But
yeah,
yeah, like an aha moment, I haven't seen that yet. You have to put in the work and deliver the product with quality on time before you can expect to get paid for it, hopefully in 30 days.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so managing customer relationships, how do you keep work coming in with the customers?
So that's a place where recently we've had a lot of improvements since about last October. We hired a new solutions manager, and so he's really, I guess, that's his title, because we help with a lot more than just our sales, but
Hmm.
business development. And then so that's helped a ton, because now we've got a better face and a presence right in front of all of our customers, and just a super personable guy that's helped us a ton. He's got decades of experience in this industry, um, a lot with selling supplies and things like that, but it all fits right in. And then I try to stay very involved myself. If a customer needs something, as an owner, I'm available, knowledgeable, and I can help, get done what needs to get done.
Yep, yep. And what's your strategy for staying competitive? So are you going to more and more trade shows? Are you going to FabTech this year to see what's out there? And
Yeah, we definitely go to FabTech every year. We try to do that, and then we are attending more trade shows. We're just continuing to diversify. We try to be as vertical as we can. We're doing as much in house as possible. Obviously, there's some things you just have to outsource, at least for a time being.
hmm.
But yeah, that's our goal, is trying to really understand our own costs and challenges, and then continuously improve, try to overcome that. Also, try to add more value for our customers in the design and the fit, form, and function of what we're building for them.
Yep, yep. Yeah, and I like how you use fit, form, and function. I was a young kid when they used to tell me that all the time in the shop.
Hmm.
Some of the
Yeah,
older guys.
yeah,
uh, so just because it looks good on paper, sometimes it's not right.
yeah. I'm in a unique situation. Being an engineer, and I grew up sketching out my own speaker enclosures and making it work myself. And so I understood some of the limitations, and working with my dad building cabinets and different things on a house construction site. But in the life of an engineer, you always hear that, the guys in the shop, all these daggum engineers are creating these problems for me. And then so I got to create other people's problems, and help them solve them. And now, I get to sometimes solve the problems I created.
Yeah, yeah,
And so you try to just learn, and and that was one thing I did early on in my career when I was interning in engineering, is just go spend time with the guys in the tool room and the in maintenance, the people that are trying to put together what you're drawing on the floor, and befriend those people. I mean, those are the and that's where you're going to really learn. You know, because and don't have so much pride to think you know the best way, and try to be humble and learn what you can from your own mistakes and others, and every once in a while you'll get it 100% right out of the gate, but that's mostly not the case.
Yeah, yeah. I knew a really good press brake operator, and he was my go-to if I had problems, because if I'm sitting in the office trying to design something or draw something and I can't make it come out right, sometimes it's easy to go to the guy who's been doing it for years on the
Right.
shop floor.
He's gonna see it right out of the gate. He's gonna, this is where you messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what's what's one trend in fabrication that excites you?
That's interesting. You know, obviously, you know, you even mentioned laser welding. I think
Hmm.
that's really interesting. We tried to early adopt a few years ago,
Yep.
and we had a really bad experience. There was just an issue with the equipment. I think we went through 3 machines in 3 weeks.
Whoa.
There was just some bugs that they had to work out. Um, and so we're just now, a few weeks ago, we purchased our second laser welder, and we're playing with dual wire feeding and things like that. Um,
Yep.
I feel like there's a lot of progress still yet to come in that area, and but I think that's going to really help fabrication when people can really accept that and use it.
Yep. Yep. And what laser welder do you have? Do you mind me asking?
Yeah, so right now, I mean, since we are just trying to get back into it, trying to take baby steps,
Yep.
um, um, we right now we've got a Everlast is what we went with this last
Okay.
one. Yeah, it's a little bit more economical, but still has a really good warranty. We went up and tested it. Previously, we had an IPG unit,
Hmm.
and just for right now, since we haven't put anything fully into production yet, it didn't make sense to make really big investment at this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're still kind of testing in the testing phase at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I and your son will be a good one to talk to about this as well, laser welding and welding, since he's getting the hang of everything there. Um, I I seen laser welding when it first come out, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, but that's because I'm a welder, TIG welder, stick welder, whatnot. But I do, I think it is a good machine. It's good technology, and it's really going gangbusters out there for taking off. Everybody's trying to get into that and sell that kind of equipment. I still think that the ASME standards are going to have to kick in somewhere and redefine some of them standards, right? Because we're used to having fillet sizes. We're reading the print, um, what size fillet you need, you know, and obviously you're playing around with a double wire feeder, and that's obviously to get a bigger fillet on your
Right.
welds, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, yeah, that's a good one, and I'm actually quite looking forward to taking a look at some of that stuff at FabTech myself this year, and see what they're saying about some of the standards, right?
Right.
Um,
That and just the actual area where it has to happen. The precautions
mm,
you have to take for the wavelength of light and all that. That's we're trying to come up with our own clever solutions to making that work. And then also when you're trying to feed double wires through a liner, now your operator's wrestling that, right? And so trying to come up with some maybe balancing or something to help hold the lead and keep the operator in one position where they're not dragging this lead up and over components that you're trying to weld together. I think the ABCs of welding just become a lot more important, so that you can always be comfortable. But the getting the equipment comfortable and in that position, when you've got the fiber lead and whatever conductors are in that whip, and then you've also got separate whips for the liners.
Yeah.
You're kind of wrestling a lot with it, and so we're looking at ways to overcome those challenges too.
Yeah. And to get the best weld, you got to be comfortable.
Right.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. Uh, so how do you see the industry evolving in the next 5 years?
I mean, I think it may be fairly obvious to a lot of people. I think AI is gonna, I'm hoping, be patched in to a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I think with cut conditions or tech tables, whatever semantics somebody wants to call it, but I think there can be a lot of improvements with that, with AI getting different outputs and being able to change settings and things on the fly. I think that's going to be a huge improvement. And then also just on the software side, I mean, I feel like we're kind of early adopting into some of the platforms we're using for quoting and for our ERP system. And I feel like there's going to be really big strides in that area to make our lives easier and help us stay organized, and keep everything flowing through the shop.
Yeah, 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 because I've seen some pretty good ERP software out there, and on the cloud, and how you can link it up to any your CAD/CAM system as well. Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff coming out. AI is definitely a big one. I see everybody, when I'm talking to people, AI is a big one. Um, you know, I I sell the Mitsubishi laser. We use the AI and some of that technology as well.
Mhm.
So it's you know it's gonna be here. So you got to start embracing it sooner than later.
Right. And I
Um,
think it's maybe for people like me, I'm not a programmer, but it kind of opens you up to be able to use some of the languages,
mm,
uh, and you can, especially if we can get involved, maybe there's some uh, like micro training programs to show people what's possible. I think we can all take it a step further.
yeah, yep. No, it's I've been using it, and I think it's pretty impressive what you can do with it. I've even used it to make HTML code or stuff
Mhm.
like that, and I make calculators for press breaks and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Because you're always looking, and everybody's looking online. It's like I just want to be able to go to one place and punch in something, and it give me the information, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna do a quick questions, rapid fire round, I guess you can
Okay.
call it. So press brake or laser?
And just one or the other.
Yeah.
I'd say laser.
Okay. Okay. Now, coffee or energy drink?
Energy drink.
uh, favorite tool in the shop?
Oh, wow. I guess that would be a flat laser.
Okay. Now, you're probably going to be both on this one. Early mornings or late nights?
Oh gosh. Uh, I guess early morning.
Yeah. And biggest fabrication pet peeve?
Mm, I'd say customers supplying PDFs with 5,000 holes on them and no solid models.
Oh, yeah. Yep, yep, yep. I know. Um, that's probably happens quite a lot,
It does.
you know. Well, at least they're getting you PDFs and not a piece of paper written with something
Mhm.
on it these days.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work with our local hydroelectric dam, and
Yeah.
sometimes the only thing they've got is the physical part, or maybe a very faded old vellum, print.
Yeah.
Blue, and you can barely read it. Yeah.
Nice. Now the as we wrap this up, is there any advice to new shop owners just starting out?
I'd say be careful about the customers that you take on. Just because you have integrity and you mean what you say. Really be careful and vet your customers, because you can easily do a lot of work and not get paid for it. And in this industry, you really don't have much recourse. There's when your bank borrows money, they've got your house as collateral. You have
Mm,
nothing as collateral, and so we've had some companies, even go bankrupt, and there's nowhere to go get that money from. So be really cautious, and try to understand your customers. Don't stick your neck out too far. Set a credit limit and stick with it.
yep. Yep. No, I good advice, because um banks will always be there to get their money no matter what. Um Andrew, I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to link everything for everybody in the YouTube video as well below. And I appreciate your time, and I wish you guys a good, prosperous year this year, right? And maybe your son will come to FabTech. Oh, he might be back in school by then in September, but um, yeah, it'd be nice to get a young welder on there. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, he'd love to. Yeah. He's he was excited to hear about this meeting, and yeah, he's pumped about it.
good, good. Well, thank you, and I'm just going to put you out here and let you close out the podcast and be back in a minute.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you enjoy the way we're doing the new YouTube channel and everything. It's great. It's all about the fabricators, the welders, the manufacturers, the engineers, and the shop. Okay, so if if you have any questions, please comment, like, subscribe. Remember, we're on audio platforms as Sheetmetal Unleashed. Okay, thank you. Have a great day, and see you on the next one.